This is my first proclamation, and it is a personal one for me as the Council's first openly LGBTQ member to recognize International Transgender Day of Visibility. And this is the first time that this day has been recognized here in Montgomery County. It has been recognized nationally for the last 10 years. And it's all about community, because we know that we live in an open, loving, welcoming community, but we can always do better. And that's the conversation that we had this morning about how we can make Montgomery County an even more welcoming place for every single resident, regardless of where you're from, the gender you were born with, where you live, who you love, what language you speak. And it is also important because yesterday I sent a letter to the county executive who's here today, who has begun a national search for the new chief of the Montgomery County Police Department. And I asked him to make sure that throughout that process we are mindful of the LGBTQ dimension of making sure that we live in an inclusive community, because members of the LGBTQ community are individuals who are victims of hate crimes. And the most number of hate crimes here in Montgomery County over the last number of years have affected members of the LGBTQ community more than anybody else. And I also just want to share one personal anecdote regarding this morning. All of us had a really important conversation about how we can improve things here in Montgomery County. And there was a sign on the 3rd floor of this building directing people where to go for a meeting. And within 10 minutes of that sign being posted, it was torn down. Somebody clearly didn't think that meeting was worth having or didn't want individuals going to it. And that's right here in the Montgomery County Council building. So this conversation, this proclamation is even more important because we have to change hearts and minds right here in our own building. And with that, I would like to invite some folks to speak. Lee Blinder, you want to say comments?
My name is Lee Blinder, and I use they, them pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of Trans Healthcare Maryland, and we're focused on being a liaison between the trans community and providers, medical providers, legal providers. And myself and Lily Pastor both grew up in Montgomery County, and we know the amazing diversity that's here in the county, but both of us also grew up without models and support specifically for being transgender persons. And I'm a non-binary transgender person. I'm also queer. And it's so important for our youth to have models and mirrors as we grow up. And I can be a model and a mirror to some of our youth, but there's a connection that people must have to see themselves as an adult. And the public health aspect is also very important, making sure that we have appropriate, comprehensive, and affirming care, health care for our community members. You know, we hear from parents that they're afraid to bring their child to the emergency room. And that's a fear that our community members who are adults, and specifically also our elders, people are facing those fears. And so we can do a lot to bring our joy and to bring our presence to our communities here and the transgender folks of Montgomery County. I am inspired by our youth, I'm inspired by our elders, and I'm inspired by my fellow adults. So I'm very much looking forward to what we're going to accomplish together.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee. Mark Eckstein. Mark.
Thanks, Evan. I just wanted to speak on behalf of some parents and thank you for bringing this proclamation and speak about the importance of our children in the schools that we have here in front of us. And while the parents realize that the council doesn't have direct operational control of a lot of the schools, we encourage you in your budgetary role to really look through the lens with our kids in mind, because the power of the purse is quite powerful, and we're hoping to really get the county council behind some of our needs and concerns with the school district. So again, thank you, Evan, and we appreciate all your help.
Thank you, Mark. And Kayla. Is Kayla here? Oh, there you are.
Hi, my name is Kayla Tangea. I'm the first GSA liaison for the Montgomery County Regional SGA. But beyond my title on the exec board, I consider myself just to be an ordinary student at MCPS, or at least that's what I had to teach myself because the curriculum wouldn't. Visibility is incredibly important because they can try to keep us out of the textbooks we read, but not out of the classrooms we fill. This is why I continuously fight for gender-neutral bathrooms and a school curriculum that extensively teaches LGBT history at all grade levels, because no one should have to go what I had to go through, or they spent their whole lives wondering where they were in history. And so I will continue to fight so that they don't, or no one doesn't have to go through what I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Here, stand here. Hang up here. Excellent. There you go. So with that, I will read the proclamation. The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland proclamation. Whereas this is the 10th year that International Transgender Day of Visibility has been honored nationally, and today is the first time we have honored it in Montgomery County. And whereas Transgender Day of Visibility is dedicated to celebrating the accomplishments and victories of transgender and non-binary people, while raising awareness of the work that is still needed to better support them. And whereas non-binary and transgender residents are an active and important part of Montgomery County community, but continue to face discrimination. And whereas county officials understand that we must replace cycles of trauma with cycles of liberation and understanding. And Montgomery County is committed to fighting oppression based on gender identity in all its forms. And whereas Montgomery County promotes equity across race, gender, socioeconomic status, so that every community member feels safe, and our residents support a beautifully diverse community in all aspects, including gender identity and sexual orientation. And whereas non-binary and transgender residents are our neighbors, our teachers, our family members, and their visibility ensures communities are not silenced. And whereas the Montgomery County Council demands a stronger, healthier, and more loving world for non-binary and transgender people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes International Transgender Day of Visibility and affirms Montgomery County's commitment to the rights of non-binary and transgender residents, presented on this day, the 2nd day of April in the year 2019, signed by myself and Council President Nancy Navarro.